Music and worlds go hand in hand. After all, a big part of the initial thing with worlds was like virtual branding and promoting musical artists, so you can see a lot of relics of this around. And there's a lot of the music players in worlds. Sometimes you'll see these jukeboxes, there's the Hard Rock Hub, there's all sorts of music playing worlds. And so in this video, I'm going to go over how these things work and how you can add music to your worlds and the solutions for doing so. Sometimes these jukeboxes would just open up a web page and you could play a song from that web page. But if you want to do it within worlds, there's a couple steps to it. So right here, I have two buttons that are pointed at the same sound action. And when I click it, music starts playing. Uh, One sound action can interrupt itself, so if I click this button too that's directed at the same sound action, it restarts. Otherwise, the sounds will start to overlap, which we'll see in a second. The problem is that there's no way to stop the sound when using a sound action until it's over. So this means that sound actions are good for quick, short sound effects or looping sounds. But for long pieces of background music, it's it's gonna get annoying. And here, just to demonstrate, if I start one sound action and then a different sound action, they play at the same time, quite obnoxiously. So what are the advantages of sound actions? Well, first of all, you can use relative file names. Anybody who works in Shaper long enough knows that relative file names are a lifesaver. You can also do room hops till sound dies. That's the amount of portals you can go through until the sound stops. So if I start it and then I go over to the next room, it'll stop. And I'll tell you right now that if you want to make a music player or a jukebox or something, this is not how most people do it, because once you start the sound action, you can't stop it. So now I'm going to talk about how the most popular way of doing it is. So here we are at Softy's Party Cave, which is one of the better known music players, and this uses the same format as a lot of music players and worlds do. So what happens is we click on one of the buttons, and the music starts. But what's different here is that we have a stop button. Similarly, if we play one of these songs and then we play another one, they interrupt each other. So why does this work and the other one doesn't? Well, this doesn't use sound actions. The way this works is that there's a hidden video wall somewhere in this world, and it doesn't matter where it is, it's invisible. And so what each of these buttons do is it uses a set string action to change whatever song is loaded into the video wall at the current time, and then the video wall is set to something like play on load. So as soon as we click it, it sets the string of the video wall, starts playing the music, and it allows us to stop. So you see the stop button has a set string action that directs the video wall to nothing, or I usually direct it to about colon blank, which it just won't play anything. So what are the big differences here? You can stop video wall method music from playing with a stop button or some other sort of trigger. Um, the disadvantage is you can't use relative file names like sound action, so you have to hard link whatever song you're going to use. And the door-based thing doesn't work. So as soon as I start playing it, no matter where I go in the world, it's going to keep playing until I hit that stop button or something triggers that stop button. Another nice thing about doing the video wall method is that it will always play. Sometimes with the sound action, if it's not cached, it won't play on the first trigger. But using the video wall method, it'll always play as soon as it's triggered. Here's another way of doing music that I tried. So in this instance, I use a open URL action. excuse me, a send URL action on a little HTML player that I added in HTML, and I used the overmap in front of the URL so that when I click it, it opens it in a little box over where the map would normally be in Shaper, and I tried to add it to the capture, but you can't really see it in the capture, but there's a play button and a stop button there that lets the user stop the music at their wall, and they can always close it. And you can also adjust the volume in Volume Mixer separately to Worlds, which it's a bit of a complex solution, but it's a pretty nice solution, I think. If you look at the Shaper docs, it'll tell you that the accepted formats for sound actions are .wav and .mid MIDI files. And it says, oh, we're trying to get MP3s to work. And MP3s do work. You can use MP3s in sound actions. And for video walls, you're going to want ASF files. And to convert ASF files, you're probably going to want to use FFmpeg. I'm not going to do a tutorial on how to use that, but if you look it up, it's pretty easy to convert things to that. If you're actually trying to play a video file in Worlds, I think like the resolution can't be greater than 1000 in either direction, but if it's just an audio file, then you should be fine. Also, you'll see in the docs there's a video control action thing, and that is like a specific action that lets you start and stop video walls. But you don't need to do that when you can just use set string, really. You can't like pause video walls or anything special that you couldn't do with set string. If you know Shaper, you might ask yourself, well, if we're just using set string to do the video wall method, why can't we use set string or set URL to do the same sort of logic with a sound action? Well, set URL doesn't work, and set string doesn't work. Well, I lied on that one. I didn't set the proper name, but if I do set it, crashes. Here's another way of doing it. If you have a web page wall, you can use set string on the web page wall and bring up a YouTube video with an action. So if we trigger that, the problem, it's kind of slow and it'll play ads, as you can see. So this is only one if you don't want to like host the audio or video file yourself. You can use YouTube, but be aware that ads will come up, and if you make it invisible, the user can't click and skip them. There we go, finally the music. And you can shut it off similarly by changing the page to about blank. So here's an interesting interaction that I discovered one day and I haven't seen really used anywhere. ASF files are an old like Windows media file that can contain audio or video. So if you put a video file into a sound action which accepts ASF files, it will still play it, and it won't just play the sound from it, it'll play the video. And if I add it to the capture, you will see that it comes up in a small little window separate from Worlds. That was Audacity, oops. And it plays the whole video, and you can close this at any time and it will open up again when the sound action is triggered again. And so I bet there's some good applications for this if it's consistent, but I haven't seen it used anywhere. So that about covers it all. The quickest recap I can give is that sound actions are good for sound effects and looping music, but if you want to make a music player, the video wall method is still really the way to go, because it lets you change tracks and stop it at user input. Where the disadvantage is you can't use relative file names. Oh well. Drop my pen.